तक नहीं पहुंचता है।
As you can see behind me, there's a huge pile of garbage, which
Hello and welcome. It is 5 o'clock in the evening and you have tuned into India's most loved evening show, India Now, the pulse of the nation. We're here again with stories from terrains unknown, people rendered voiceless, and traditions that remain hidden. Our reporters and correspondents are spread across the country, reporting on fascinating stories that matter from the remotest interiors of the country, bringing alive the fragile but vibrant tapestry of India. So let's get right into it. I'm joined by my colleague Shubhangi. Hi Shubhangi, let us see where you are and what is making news.
Yes, Vedant. So currently there are about 78,112 active cases in the national capital as compared to 83,982 cases on Monday. So a significant dip in COVID cases is seen in the capital, with the city reporting 12,000 cases on a daily average. More on this will be revealed in the capsule ahead. A dip in COVID cases is seen in the capital, with the city reporting 12,000 cases on a daily average. Data shared by the state government shows the daily tally has fallen by nearly 49% in the past 4 days. The positivity rate too is down from 30.64% to 27.99% in this period. Experts are, however, keeping an eye on the daily testing that has decreased by 44%. The capital has a capacity to conduct nearly 1 lakh cases a day. However, only half of it is being currently utilized. The Health Minister Satyendra Jain said the cases have decreased because of the weekend curfew, which is proving to be beneficial. A dip. These are the visuals of Tikampura village in Uttar Pradesh. The election season has started in the heartbeat of the nation. The voting for the assembly elections in UP is going to be held from 10th February to 7th March, and 7 phases to elect 403 members of the Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly. Politicians and political analysts are calling the elections of Uttar Pradesh as the semi-finals of the 2024 general elections. With the rise in COVID cases, the campaigns and rallies are now mostly happening virtually, as the Election Commission has banned physical rallies. Prime Minister Modi yesterday interacted with BJP workers of Varanasi virtually. This was the Prime Minister's first interaction with workers after Election Commission announced the schedule of assembly polls in Uttar Pradesh.
Shubhangi, now that you've mentioned UP, we have to bring up Purana Lucknow. So now as we meander through the pan-fragrant alleys of Husainganj, this morning we are lost in the sound of scintillating ghazals wafting from a broken transistor kept in the Nukkar Beetle shop. The music leads us to the Purani Havelis of old Lucknow, magnificent even in their ruins, giving us a sense that countless tales and legends of a treasured cultural past were lived here. Now, the city is also a stunning emblem of multiple Indias that coexist in chaotic synergy. Now, while the elite of the city continues to wallow in the old regal routine, the marginalized people living in the adjoining villages of the city seem anguished on this morning leading up to the Vidhan Sabha polls in the offing. For them, the central conflict that is going to become the defining factor in these elections is the issue of the cattle. For them, the Yogi government has turned a blind eye to their miseries in the aggressive policy of affording protection to the cows. They say that since the government has a zero tolerance policy vis-a-vis the slaughter of cows, there is a veritable cattle menace in the interior parts of Uttar Pradesh. The abandoned cows destroy their crop, and 1 year of their blood, sweat, and money go for a toss. They virtually have nothing left to eat, let alone sell in marketplaces. The farmers are particularly disillusioned with the government because they have to sit and surveil their farms throughout the night in the freezing winters of Uttar Pradesh. Now, they say that cow sheds, or goshalas as they're called, where abandoned cattle could have been sent, are in abysmal conditions, with barely any fodder available for their cattle. For them, on the eve of the UP elections, cow slaughter is a problem, but cattle menace is a way more serious issue that needs immediate action. How the anger of the 70% of the state's population reflects in the election numbers remains to be seen. Now, that was a big story coming in from the epicenter of the election season. Now, let us see what we have for the national headlines of the day. We at India now believe that it is an obligation on the part of a journalist to revisit and re-examine immortal stories from the past, from the archives, that strike a chord even today. One such incredible tale was brought to life today, a story that should have made headlines universally. Today, the 19th of January was observed as the Kisan Majdoor Ekta Divas by farmer and labor unions across the country to mark the 40th anniversary of the infamous General Labor Strike of 1982. Now, this marks the coming together of urban and rural workforces, which still find themselves in a similar predicament, trapped in the repressive policies of the central government. Now, the All India Kisan Sabha and the All India Agricultural Workers Unions said vociferously in a joint statement that they call for the unity between farmers and laborers is still as significant, considering what they call their historic win against the arbitrary farm laws of the central government. Well, now there is some tragic news coming in. It has been a rather sad day for lovers of Indian literature as the undisputed legend of Indian folklore, illustrator and cartoonist Narayan Devnath, passed away at the ripe age of 96. Now, he was a Padma Shri awardee, viewers, and creator of life-affirming characters like Batul the Great and Nonte Fonte. He's also one of the few fortunate cartoonists to have become a household name. Now, there are obituaries pouring in. As we can see, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee said in a tweet that he shall be reminisced and remembered for creating countless characters that will remain etched in the hearts of Indians for decades to come. Now, those were some of the headlines. Now, let me hand it over to Shubhangi. Shubhangi, what are some of the national headlines coming in for the day?
Thank you, Vedant. I'm here with the top headlines from Delhi. The Editors Guild of India has expressed anguish over the Kashmir Press Club shutting down after the Jammu and Kashmir administration said that it had ceased to exist as a registered body and took over the premises. The shutting down of the club is the latest act in the sequence of disturbing events where the re-registration of the club was first arbitrarily put in abeyance by the Registrar of Societies. Amid a sharp rise in COVID cases fueled by the Omicron variant, the Assam government has issued an order saying that unvaccinated people won't be allowed entry in public places except hospitals. The order comes on the heels of the central government's affidavit before the Supreme Court, which states that COVID vaccination has not been made compulsory. Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma said that people unwilling to get vaccinated should stay at home. According to the daily reports, the positivity rate in Assam spiked by 10.75% on a daily basis. New Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal flagged off the city's first electric bus. It also became the first bus to be added to Delhi Transport Corporation fleet in over a decade. The city is expected to get 50 more e-buses by next month and a total of 300 by April. The bus is said to have marked the beginning of a new era in the transport of Delhi. The British government announced a 2-year freeze on the British Broadcast Corporation license fee, prompting concerns over the future financial and editorial stability of the broadcaster. The annual license fee, which makes up about 3/4 of BBC's income, will remain fixed until April 2024 and could be completely abolished by 2027. The UK government has packaged the decision as a cost-cutting measure for its citizens, reeling under the fallout of coronavirus pandemic, soaring inflation rates, and the rising cost of the living. Now our anchor Vedant will tell us more about the heritage segment.
Well, thank you, Shubhangi. It has been quite an eventful day as far as the news is concerned. Well, now it's time to take a break from the monotonous news and time to revel in the glory of a treasured heritage. I am joined by our correspondent Pratibha, who has a very interesting story at hand today. She will be taking us to the glorious Agarnath temple, which has a magnificent religious, cultural, and political history, still not forgotten and joyously celebrated. So with no further ado, let us take you to this fascinating temple where hues of religion blend seamlessly.
Hello everyone, this is Pratibha Rathi and I welcome you for the Heritage Walk program. This is for India Now. The temple I am standing in front of is Agarnath temple, and you will be surprised to know the very amazing fact about this temple is that the first ever revolution for the freedom struggle of India in 1857 started from this place. Yes, I am saying it right, from the place I am standing in front of. So let's know what other people have to say about it, also to get a gist about what the history of this place is. So now we are just having a person in front of us. We'll ask him what he wants to say about the history of this place. Hello sir, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Vishal. I'm a regular visitor of this temple. Since 2006 I'm coming over here daily. This temple is of Lord Shiva temple. Along with it there is a Lord Krishna as well as Mata Rani temple also. It is believed that this temple was established in the year of 1857, or the Indian Revolution start from here, the Mangal Pandey. It is believed over there. So it's a very, I should say, very old temple over there. And the Shivling over here is called Swayambhu. Swayambhu means that's palace of the Shivling, originate on its own from the earth. That's called Swayambhu temple. And about me, I can say, Lord Shiva has helped me in many ways. It is definitely there's some power, there's some magnetism over here, and he had helped me out every time, even today. I was very hungry. By the way, I'm a teacher by profession. I was coming from school. I was very hungry. So Lord Shiva offered me lots of prasadam, offered me prasadam and satisfied my hunger. So this temple, I should say, yes, it's a rich, rich in heritage as well as. अगर मैं हिंदी में बोलूँ तो this temple is, अपने आप में इसका एक मैग्नेटिज्म है, एक चार्म है, और यहाँ पे आके सब लोगों की इच्छाएं पूरी करती है. What else you would like to ask me?
So the next question I would like to ask about the history regarding the revolution of India. So
yeah, this temple is also called Kali Palchan because the English person used to call us the black people, and Palchan in English means platoon. So the army, the Indian person who were and then they were in the English army, they were called Kali Palchan, the black platoon. there was a Lord Shiva temple, as I say, the Shivling was over there. It is believed that first Indian revolution start over here. The Mangal Pandey history and all start from over here. You must be knowing about the Mangal Pandey history. And from there, the Bigal was begin, and the Indian revolution starts, as I said many times earlier. And from then onward, this temple become quite famous, and the rest is all history. You must be knowing.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have clearly known the fact that this temple, also known as the Kali Paltan temple. So why it is called that, the person Vishal explained it right before me. So the Britishers used to call us the black people, and they have started the revolt from here. So they have named it the Kali Paltan temple. So this is with the Oganath temple. Now we'll visit the next location in Meerut. Be with us. So we are standing at the Shaheed Smarak in the Meerut camp, which is made in the memory of the people who have died in the revolt of 1857 for the freedom struggle of India. So this place is recently closed. We cannot enter it, maybe because of the COVID restrictions. And now let's talk to the people what they have to say about Shaheed Smarak. Excuse me, sir. Can you please tell me the importance of this place, Shaheed Smarak?
एक्चुअली जब 1857 की क्रांति यहाँ से स्टार्ट हुई थी, तो जो भी लोग शहीद हुए थे मेरठ के अंदर इस क्रांति में, तो यहाँ पर उनकी याद के लिए ये चीज़ें बनाई गई थी, ताकि हमारे अंदर ये जुनून जज्बा रहे कि हमारे अच्छे भविष्य के लिए लोग यहाँ पर कुर्बान हुए हैं, उन्होंने अपनी जान दी है। तो यहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि ये एक मेरठ में एक बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है। और यहाँ पे शहीदों के काफ़ी आप देखें तो यहाँ पे शहीदों की याद में चीज़ें बनाई गई हैं, कोट्स लिखे हुए हैं कि हमने अपना आज आपके कल के लिए बर्बाद किया है, या फिर हम शहीद हुए हैं। तो इसके लिए मानता हूँ कि यहाँ पर हमें जुनून और वो जज्बा मिलता है कि हमें अपने देश को किस तरह से रखना है, हमें उसकी कदर करनी है, जिन्होंने हमारे लिए अपनी जान कुर्बान की है, हमें उन्हें याद रखना है। तो मुझे लगता है कि बहुत ज़रूरी चीज़ है और बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है जो हमारे शहर मेरठ में है।
Everyone, this is Pratibha Rathi and this program is for India.
Moving on, the pandemic has affected everyone's lives, but majorly taken an unthinkable toll on children who were impacted socially, emotionally, and academically. We have our correspondent, Rachel Hudson, joining us from Chennai in conversation with Dr. Shilpa, who is a pediatrician and will tell us about the current situation of COVID amongst children and the vaccination drive that is taking place for them. Over to you, Rachel.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to our show. For today's segment, I'm going to be conversing with Dr. Shilpa, a pediatrician, and she's going to tell us more about the COVID situation amongst kids. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us today. And without further ado, let's dive right into the questions. So, Doctor, since the second wave has started, everyone has been talking about how the third wave is going to affect children. So now that the third wave has started, how badly are children affected?
In the initial two waves, what we had was number of cases were on the gradual rise. We had maybe in a day 5 to 10 cases what we were getting in the OPD, which gradually increased in numbers. But right now, on a day-to-day basis, the number of cases are alarmingly large. But thankfully, what we are seeing is the children are less affected, like maybe rhinitis or upper respiratory tract infections, not such a severe cough or cold that requires essential IP admission. So it's like kind of you can manage them at home by basic medications which we are usually giving for common cold. So hopefully this type of mutant or whatever is the virus that is Omicron is less infectious,
Okay,
even
so
though the spread is large.
okay, so children are not affected very badly. So there was also a talk about the BCG vaccine, which is administered to kids when they're babies, saying that because of that vaccination, children are not suffering due to the virus. Is that true, or is that just a rumor?
I think so. It might be a rumor because even though this virus, we are also new to it, and researches are still being going on. And if it is so, then even as adults, we have already been vaccinated by this BCG vaccine. So I don't think there is much of a correlation between BCG vaccination and COVID infectivity.
Okay, doctor. So moving on to our next question. Since children are quite prone to colds and cough, often children are roaming around with a handkerchief, how can a commoner, someone who doesn't know much about how to differentiate between corona and a common cold, how can they know that this is a common cold, but this is the virus?
Actually, we cannot differentiate as such because the presentation is usually similar. The child will have a runny nose, you'll have a low grade fever initially. But what we saw in the past few months with COVID was that the child was running high fever. That is, if common cold, you had a fever of 1 or 2 days, and it was usually at around 100 to 101. But here the case was different. We had high grade spiking fevers that was running around 104 degree. And this had initially precipitated a large number of attacks of febrile seizures. Febrile seizures is like in a child of 6 months to 6 years, we have like the children are much more prone for seizures when the fever is high because they have a lesser threshold due to brain maturation, which is immature. So these children we had noticed that there was large number of cases of febrile seizures also. And but the symptoms which we see in usual adults, that is body pain and myalgia, are quite less in children. And basically, I think it's because the lesser number of chemokine release, that is anti-inflammatory effect, that is the body which is fighting the COVID virus, is seen in adults, is not particularly seen in children. The immune response and the symptoms are much more milder. So it's not very easy to differentiate between COVID and common cold. For practical purposes, what we used to do was we had to screen these children prior to admission because we could not afford other children who are asymptomatic getting these infections. So while during the admission time, we used to screen these symptomatic cases, and we used to get positive cases, and these children will be isolated in a separate ward.
Okay, doctor. So viewers, if your children are running a high fever for quite a few days, you better get them checked and be aware that the virus is still going on. So doctor, children and elderly people are said to have low immunity. In the first and second wave, we witnessed hundreds of elderly people passing away. But why is the morbidity rate of children low during the third wave?
As I told before, I think this new spreading virus Omicron variant is much more less potent, and we hopefully wait for this Omicron virus to replace the Delta type. Delta has been found to have much more severe correlation, having severe respiratory problems, and even though if the patient has recovered from COVID, it's found that they have much more morbidity issues, that is distress while doing daily activities and just discomfort and all. But this one, I think Omicron, even though it's spreading in hugely like this at alarming rates, that means the morbidity associated with it is much more less, because right now till date the cases which we are getting also, I told, it's milder in symptoms compared to the earlier ones. The other ones, the children were really totally decreased appetite and sick looking when they were running very high grade temperatures. But right now they are having only low grade fevers and a little bit of runny nose and such. only in children who have other comorbid conditions like cancers or blood discrepancies. Any other associated illness are only found to be going into a sicker condition. Otherwise, I think even compared to adults, the children are having milder symptoms. I think it's basically because of the um, immune response or the fighting response that the body is doing. In children, we have found that the chemokine release, that is the anti-inflammatory effects that is taking place in the body, is much more less. Maybe that's why it is less symptomatic or less severe as such.
Okay, doctor. So you told us a lot about COVID and what all we have to look out for. So coming to the vaccination side of it, there was so much talk about vaccinations when it came to the adult side. But when it was about children, there was on and off information about that. So do you think the government is giving equal importance to children and adults when it comes to administering vaccines?
I think the government, the basic problem is we are also new to this. Everybody is new to this infection, COVID, and we have been only, the researchers are going on. So prior to getting a vaccine drive completely like universally getting as accepted, it is important that trials have been completely run and it's found that it's safer, because as a parent, it would be very difficult for everybody to be convinced that this vaccine is safe for their child. So without adequate data or research material available, it's very difficult for us to convince the parents also. So the trials have been run, and I think only a few vaccines have adequate, like, even though we have knowledge that it's effective and efficacious, the use or what happens in children, we are not so sure. And getting a trial, human trial itself is a difficult process, and getting a trial in children, especially in childhood age group, is much more difficult. So maybe that's why it has been like a little bit delayed administration in children, but hopefully everyone will come forward and take the vaccine.
Yeah, sure. That's what we all hope for. So, why is the only Covaxin administered to children and not Covishield?
The thing is, Covaxin is a whole vector vaccine, and it has been produced in India itself. Bharat Biotech has been the manufacturers, and compared to Covishield, I think much more coverage is given by the Covaxin. Like, much more mutant forms have been covered by this Covaxin, I suppose. But the Covishield was the one which was released in India for the healthcare workers initially. So once the first dose was given, the booster dose which was to be taken was also should be of the same one which was taken earlier. So most of the healthcare workers, and the one which had been given by the government at subsidized rates was Covishield. So most of the people have taken Covishield. But Covaxin is also efficacious, but the research has not, the data is not available. That is, which one is better. But since the Covaxin, I think, which is manufactured in India, and we have a bit more data in children, in trials in children, I think maybe that's why the government has suggested it more.
Okay, doctor. Thank you so much for joining us today. And viewers, Dr. Shilpa has given us so many pointers on how to stay safe during this pandemic and how we should be aware of whether our children are getting affected by corona and the precautionary steps to take. So I'm Rachel and you're watching India Now. Good morning, viewers.
All right, viewers, we are heading for a short break. Please stay tuned. We will be back soon.
दिल में है, जो गरीबों के दिल में है, वो प्रधानमंत्री तक नहीं पहुंचता है।
As you can see behind me, there's a huge pile of garbage, which
Hello again, viewers. Welcome back. So now let us take a look at the widely expanding media landscape and what our fellow media houses are up to. It is important that we critique each other and break good stories. So now it is a no-brainer that digital has taken over all our lives. We all are heavy consumers of digital news. So why run away from it? And most of our news consumption is on our phones. So let me pull out my phone and take you through some of the most popular websites and let's see what they're up to. So I'll first go to The Wire's website. As you can see here, The Wire is quite a popular website, particularly among millennials, and they consider it to be credible journalism, fearless journalism, in fact. So let us see what they're actually doing. So here, as you can see, you have all these categories, and my favorite category in the Wire website is their analysis category, because I think their analytical pieces and their opinion pieces are really good, and sometimes they do overshadow the news, but nevertheless, they are quite good. So as you can see, I'll go here to the analysis bit, and one of the stories that I would recommend you to read is the UP elections story that they've done. It's very extensive reporting that they have done here. It is called Inside the Political Storm Engulfing the Shikhar Gutka Group. Now, this is one story that hasn't been covered as extensively by many other media houses, but The Wire has done it very, very extensively. And what I like about the story here is that it's balanced. It gives you both sides of the story, and it does not reject the other side without considering it even. So this is one of my recommendations today. And the other thing that I would recommend all of you to read is their economy stories. Now, I think economy is one thing which is very underreported as far as our country is concerned. But The Wire is doing extensive reporting on economy as well. So one of the stories that I would like you to read is the Israeli police story that they've done. The Israeli police used Pegasus on ex-government employees. Now, again, as we all know, Pegasus was one story that was broken by The Wire, and these economic updates are extremely interesting to read. So I would suggest you to go to The Wire's website and read this as well. Now, let me go to the other website very popular with the millennials, and that is the scroll.in. So let us go to the Scroll and see what they're doing. So here I am on the Scroll's website, and without even a blink, I'll go to their culture section, because that is their USP and that is what they're known for. And as far as the Scroll is concerned, there's a certain literary value to their articles. So I would like you all to explore their culture section. And another recommendation of mine for today would be this story that they've done, which is about this Indian temple that was discovered in Belgium. Now, very fascinating and very comprehensively covered by the Scroll. And I have an ad that says support free and independent journalism. Okay, that is something that all of us should note. And we as viewers must, support and champion the right media organizations. So I'll close this ad for now, but keep that in mind. And then let us see the stories. Now, the story is about how this architect got inspired by Indian styles of architecture and how he built this temple. So this is another very interesting story. And all their stories in the culture section are very riveting to read. Even the profile that they've done on Narayan Devnath here is very interesting. So the scroll.in for me is synonymous with culture. So go and explore their culture section. Another website, ladies and gentlemen, that now I would recommend is the People's Archive of Rural India. Now, I would say one of the most committed websites when it comes to rural reportage. And they have amazing categories. So here you have all these categories where they have bifurcated news based on categories. So they have an entire category devoted to farmers. They have an entire category devoted to the various tribes of India. And they also have a category devoted to the socially and economically backward sections of society. So, I mean, the Rural Archive, the People's Archive of Rural India, I beg your pardon, is one website that you must explore. So, there's also another interesting thing that I would like you to read on the Pari website, and that is the story of Pari. So this is how media organizations and journalists evolve and become what they are. So I would request you to read this story as well. So these were some of my recommendations, and this was like an overarching look on what digital is doing. So now let us see what our good old print is up to. We have Shruti joining us from Ranchi to let us know what regional newspapers are covering by and large. Yes, Shruti, let's see what you have in store.
It's a bright sunny day in Ranchi today, rather perfect to go through the happenings of the day. News reading in Ranchi is synonymous to Prabhat Khabar. Right at the masthead, there is an obituary running for Pandit Birju Maharaj, along with 2 tweets that came in from the President as well as the Prime Minister of India. Right at the tagline of the paper, it says Akhbar Nahi Andolan. If translated, it means Prabhat Khabar is not just a newspaper, rather it's a movement. If one looks at the layout of the newspaper, it is a mix of national, city, easements and tenders. The umbrella headline then has another story which pertains to the state that the regional newspaper belongs to. This headline now talks about the number of people who've tested positive for the state, which is Jharkhand. The number currently is 55,560 people. There is no dearth of resources in the state of Jharkhand. Therefore, what is it that the communities inside the state are still deprived of the most basic necessities in life? The next page of the newspaper discusses 3 schemes that the Hemant Soren-led Jharkhand Mukti Morcha party is going to introduce in the recent times. One of the other headlines that the front page has is that of the state as well as the capital city of Ranchi receiving heavy rainfall by 23rd of January. This weather update is also befitting because the weather in the past 1 week has not been the most pleasant in the state. There is no dearth of resources in the state of Jharkhand. Over 40% of the country's mineral resources are solely coming in from the state of Jharkhand. Therefore, what is it that the communities inside the state are still deprived of the most basic necessities in life? The next page of the newspaper discusses 3 schemes that the Hemant Soren-led Jharkhand Mukti Morcha party is going to introduce in the recent times. One of those schemes is that of the satellite mapping of the water resources and over 4 lakh hand pumps scattered all across the state in order to find out where can clean water be dug out. While the top 2 stories discuss state-specific schemes that the government intends to put to use, there's also a discussion of a center-approved scheme, that is PM Gati Shakti Yojana, that's going to be a master plan for the state of Jharkhand. Prabhat Khabar's Cartoon Corner is a wickedly funny piece on the digital obsession that the country as well as the younger generation is going through. With news, with tweets, that is there online being consumed recklessly and mindlessly.
Thank you, Shruti. Moving on, the weirdest food combination has come to light in a video shared by NDTV Beeps, which shows the process of dosa ice cream being made. Yes, you heard it right. The video was originally posted by the great Indian foodie, who is a food blogger on Instagram, and the clip was shot at Delhi's Amar Colony, which took the internet by storm as it went viral. Food lovers were enraged, and one even commented on the post saying that like getting away with murder. The video ends with ice cream topped with aloo masala and chutney. Quite bizarre. In another post by NDTV, a West Bengal is all set to host 450 guests at their wedding, but without flouting the COVID rules. Sandipan and Aditi plan to get married on 24th January and will use Google Meet for their guests to attend ceremony. Moreover, the food will be delivered to all guests through Zomato. The guests will be able to use the video conferencing platform to view the live telecast of the wedding, and the dinner will be sent through Zomato, all in the comfort of their own homes. The pandemic has truly altered our lives. Having touched upon some of the most compelling news trends on social media, I think there's a significant debate that must be addressed. Is social media destroying journalism, or has it made journalism more accessible? What do you think, Vedant?
Well, Shubhangi, this is, as you mentioned, a very important conversation that is being had very passionately within the media community. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a little old school when it comes to placing social media in the media landscape. I mean, I don't know if it would be even acceptable to say that I believe that social media tampers with the authenticity of the story. Now, considering there are so many influences that come in terms of packaging the story in a certain way and making it palatable for the netizen, I think in the process, we do lose the essence of the story, and it is distorted, to say the least. However, I think credit where it's due, social media does help spark conversations and discourses around stories that wouldn't have seen the light of day had it not been for social media. I mean, you seem to be quite a fan of social media journalism, isn't it?
Well, I think that social media has become the ultimate source of news for millennials and youngsters. They consume news entirely through social media, and it is a fact that cannot be denied. Absolutely. I think that thanks to social media, we have now more and more politically aware and sensitive youngsters. Had it not been for social media, I think youngsters would have been totally ignorant about some of the most important developments, both nationally and internationally. Don't you think?
Well, while I do echo your thoughts on social media facilitating the accessibility of news, I would also like to add a caveat here. The exposure of millennials to news is not just narrow and sparse, but also misplaced at times. I think you would agree with me, Shubhangi, on this. I mean, it is a no-brainer that social media is one of the prime reasons for misinformation and disinformation as far as journalism is concerned. Also, since social media journalism operates on very specific algorithms and trends, there is a large possibility that there are only certain kind of stories that can leverage social media, while others have a very short-lived span and reach. But again, not to take away from the fact that social media is one of the most successful experiments in journalism, and that its dynamic nature is fascinating. Right, Shubhangi, what would you like to say?
Absolutely. There are certainly many more experiments in social media that remain yet to be seen. There are amazing standalone social media journalists and media houses that are doing an amazing job of not just pandering to trends, but committed to putting out solid information that is both factually correct, verified, and at the same time, something that is consistent. Social media, in my opinion, has redefined consistency in journalism. Moving on, the technology startups have been the rage among Indian job seekers during pandemic. We now have special correspondent Nikhil Anil, who is reporting from Kerala. We see him in conversation with Mr. Mehul Tekchandi, who is the owner of Mystical Mirrors and will tell us about how his business was impacted by the pandemic.
Welcome to India Now, and I'm correspondent Nikhil Anil reporting live from Kerala. The pandemic has created a bit of a tough time for everyone. There are a lot of people who have been stranded out there, people who have been trying to make their own niche, people who haven't been able to make their own niche, people who lost their niche with the pandemic progressing. One of the major concerns for people during the pandemic is now the good time to start running a business. Today with me, I have Mr. Mehul Tekchandani, a recent student from Bennett University, graduated with a BA in Journalism and Mass Communication with honors in 2021. But Mr. Mehul was not one of the people who waited for the placement cells to arrive. Mehul sir here has created his own business almost immediately after graduating from college. So today we're going to be talking with him about how he came across the idea, how he decided to go about it, and how the pandemic has been affecting his business and how has it been going for him so far. So thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Nikhil, for having me here.
Okay, so obviously my initial question would be, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about what makes Mehul a businessman. Like, has this been something you recently developed, or has it been something which has been there in the past as well?
Okay, initially when I started out, it was in 12th grade. I was very interested in doing something of my own. I wanted to defy the monotonous. Basically, I didn't want to end up doing college, then a simple job, and then rise up the ladder in that particular manner. Okay, I had some things in mind, so I want to cater to my dreams, and it began right after my 12th class. So I want to make a website first. I wanted to do something different out of this. People have websites and they mostly don't focus on a niche. They end up building an e-commerce one. Okay, that was back then in 2017 18. People were after they should have an e-commerce website. I thought, why not have a niche, right? And it was the new trendy thing that began at that time. So then I started with souvenirs and collectibles, like those Marvel and DC stuff and merchandise stuff. So those kind of things were my interest. So I started gathering them and selling it online. Basically, it was a drop shipping thing which I was doing with Shopify. So obviously I wasn't able to invest at that time, as I was just a child or just a young 18-year-old. So I didn't have the resources to invest money. So I went for drop shipping. Before that, in 9th grade, I started selling those bands, if you remember those wristbands, the David Guetta one and the Lionel Messi, Barcelona and all that. So I used to get them in bulk, right? And then I sold them obviously at retail rates, and they were quite popular. So just name the amount and you get it. It was like that back then when I was in 9th grade. It's always been there inside of me. I always want to defy the monotonous routine. So I went for the doing my own thing, following my passion and going towards entrepreneurship. I participated in HULT Prize, which is one of the biggest entrepreneurship competitions, and with my team I stood second place in that. And after that, I was also a year and a half later, I was also hosting HULT Prize as the deputy vice manager for that.
Tell me about your business. Talk to me about what your business is about, what your company is about.
It is a startup brand right, which is called Mystical Mirrors, and like we have been working on that and building that, and making it stand up on its own. And soon we are planning to open up a new showroom, and yeah, it's going to be a whole display of mirrors, and obviously mirrored furniture. And this is the initial first big step towards my main goal in life. So it's a very big leap in my career in the starting phase, of course. And I'm really happy about that, of course. So this business I started, back in February. I started learning more about it. We have a whole unit set up, a whole factory set up. So we manufacture our own things. And like I wanted to get myself involved in the whole process of the thing. I wanted to do sales also. I wanted to do management also. I wanted to be a part of the creativity section, like social media marketing and all. So like I want to involve myself fully and completely in this business, right? And that has got me to a point that we are about to open a showroom right now. So really excited about that. I have to make sure that my brand is like something big, like as I imagine it to be.
2021, in the initial stages when the pandemic was still at a high, and especially when there was a second wave going on around then. So wouldn't that have affected your business a lot?
Yeah, it did, because I got COVID at that time. So like I was kind of bedridden for like 4 days, and like I wasn't able to do anything about that. And then at that point of time, nobody was investing in luxury. My focus has mainly been at that time on B2B, and nobody was really investing their time in purchasing mirrors. Obviously, it was very difficult for me at that time. Like, of course, like we had to push ourselves online, and like we did it with the website and then Instagram promotions. I was myself doing a lot of Instagram promotions at that time. The major focus was on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn to get B2B customers, and like Instagram and Facebook for obviously the B2C section. So like I was able to gather like a respectable amount of inquiries at that time also. Like obviously with the whole odd even thing which has been going on, we have to obviously keep our showroom closed on those particular days. And then obviously it's the weekend, which is the curfew time, right? So like we work for 2 or 3 days maximum a week.
One final question to wrap up. Right. What is next for you?
I have this. I don't think like if I'm settled at one place, so like it's done. Okay, I'm earning a good amount of money. Okay, cool, I'm done with it. No, I don't think that way. I actually, like as I said, have goals for me in mind, and I want to live up to that. Right. So my plan is not gonna end here, like just by opening one showroom. It's just the first step towards my end goal. Okay, and it's a major leap, I understand, but like I have a lot of things planned in mind which are similar to this tangent. I have some other things in mind, and I'm building up to that vision which I have for me in mind. I live by a vision and a mission, basically, which is to live up to an image of me which I have in mind.
That's our time. Thank you so much to all our viewers for joining in, and thanks a lot, Mr. People, for joining us on this and for talking to us. I really wish you all the best in your future, all the best with your company, and I really hope you get the success that you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. I wish the same for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
much.
And thank you.
Well, thank you, Nikhil. COVID affecting businesses is not going to lose resonance, sadly, for a while now. Now, the Prime Minister's security lapse has been grabbing headlines all along, and rightfully so, with many conspiracy theories taking shape and tears of #PM par khatra being shed. Now, correspondent Saurabh has an interesting take on it and promises to leave us in splits. Let's see what's in store.
देश के प्राइम मिनिस्टर खतरे में है. A plot to kill the prime minister. A video clip of Maharashtra Congress chief Nana Patole has created a controversy in Maharashtra. So the clip shows Mr. Patole saying, "I can kill Modi and even abuse him.
पीएम मोदी के खिलाफ बयान देकर घिरे महाराष्ट्र कांग्रेस अध्यक्ष नाना पटोले के खिलाफ बीजेपी ने मोर्चा खोल दिया है।
Like how you kill someone, you dig a grave, and then you call him a mad.
कैसा लगा मेरा मजाक?
Okay, on a serious note, just to think from Mr. Patole's perspective, he was speaking in Marathi. So Marna in Marathi can be translated in two ways. One is Marna and one is Marna. So I think the national media might have taken it in wrong sense. As per me, you first abuse someone, then start beating them or killing them.
आप क्रोनोलॉजी समझ लीजिए.
Anyhow, BJP Maharashtra took this as a cue and started protesting across the state. So now that the blunder is done, Mr. Patole has come up with a clarification. What is in the name? He got a heads up from Shakespeare. Let me explain. He didn't mean Modi. I mean, he said Modi, but not that Modi, some other Modi. According to him, there is some local guy who is a thug and has been arrested by the police. But the local police say they don't have anyone named Modi behind the bars. Smart move, Mr. Patole. But the BJP supporters are much tensed about the life of Modi, not the goon. The Prime Minister has recently come back from a life-threatening incident that took place on a bridge in Punjab. Also, our media has recently exposed the plot to kill Prime Minister at the Republic Day parade. How much one has to suffer for the country and why?
Because I'll tell you why. Because I'll tell you why. You hear me, then I'll tell you why. No, why?
In other news, elections have been declared in 5 states including UP. Keep watching India Now.
Moving on, old restaurants never fade away and they just get better with time. Our correspondent Chania Rao from Jamshedpur will take us through the city's oldest Parsi cafe, Cafe Regal, and will have a chat with the manager, Mr. Varun Gazder, on Parsi cuisine and its importance in today's time. Over to you, Chania.
Well, it is indeed a very pleasant morning here at Jamshedpur, and I'm present at the famous Cafe Regal, situated right amidst the busy Bistropur streets. This cafe, which is famous for its Parsi cuisine, is situated right here at this 100-year-old building.
From the looks of it, it can be made out that this building is ancient. The windows and doors have an old touch to it, and it reminds each of its customers the history and heritage of this place. The decor of this cafe has a Persian and Iranian touch to it, giving it a calm and peaceful ambience. Well, quite contrary to the busy Bistropur market, band performances, a small reading corner, picturesque walls and graphics add a fun, vibrant element to this place. This place is not only popular among the youth, but has also won several awards.
Nothing better than enjoying brewing cups of hot chocolate in this winter morning. This hot chocolate is extremely famous among the customers and is probably the most enjoyed hot beverage here in this cafe, apart from pasta, sandwiches, as well as Parsi cuisine.
Mr. Mahesh Kumar, who is the manager of this cafe, has been working here since a very long time, taking care of its customers.
Well, today I have with me Mr. Varun Gazdar, the owner of this cafe. Coming from a Parsi family himself, he narrates what this cafe means to him and his family.
Well, we are one of the oldest families in Jamshedpur, when Jamshedpur was formed. And we've been here for a very long time. And we've always seen the people always wanted to know what the building looked like from the inside and who lived there, the vibe that we have here in the building and the different kind of cuisine that we love. So the whole idea was to start the cafe with that intent to share with people around. And this being a Parsi establishment with a Parsi name, not a single Parsi restaurant anywhere. So it feels a little odd. So it makes sense. It just makes sense for cafe to exist.
Well, not many people are aware of what Parsi cuisine is all about. So if maybe you could help us understand a bit more about this.
Okay, so in order to understand Parsi cuisine, we need to go way back to the time when Parsis came to India. So when we came in, we had our own different types of cuisines, different type of dishes and all that came in with us. And the beautiful part about our cuisine is that it's a blend of Indian cuisine and the northwest cuisine that's there. So it's a beautiful blend of both the places. So that's what makes it so different. And over time, the beauty about Parsi cuisine is that it's always been influenced with different cultures. And you can see that. So the same dish that will be made here in Persia would be made, or Iran now, would be made slightly differently. So there is a difference of taste and texture and culture that comes through completely. So that's what makes the Parsi cuisine unique.
Well, food, be it of any specific cuisine or country, always has a unique place in people's hearts. And this Parsi cafe, named Cafe Regal, situated right at the heart of Jamshedpur, is one such example. So that's it from my side. Stay safe and take care.
We will now slip into a short break. Please stay tuned. We will be right back with an interview segment with our reporter Omkar Nandi.
As you can see behind me, the roads are all empty here at Calcutta. It's just 8 o'clock and there are no lockdown restrictions per se by the government. However, people are scared for the new Omicron variant and they have started isolating themselves. Stay tuned with India Now for more updates from cities across the nation. Stay tuned and stay safe.
जो किसानों के दिल में है, जो गरीबों के दिल में है, वो प्रधानमंत्री तक नहीं पहुंचता है।
As you can see behind me, there is a huge pile of garbage, which
Welcome back. You're watching India Now. Now let's move on to our profile segment. We have correspondent Omkar Nandi reporting from Chennai. He will dwell into the lives of migrant workers Chintu Kumar and Dilip Kumar, who are from the northern states and are currently working as laborers in Chennai, Srinagar. Our correspondent will walk us through their lives and daily struggle. Over to you, Omkar.
Chennai, the capital city of Tamil Nadu, has been westernized over the years. And despite being one of the 4 metropolitan cities of India, Chennai still remains deep-rooted in its culture and traditions. Constructed by the Madras Presidency government, T Nagar is ideally a residential area but is now perceived as an all-time favorite shopping place for everyone. Whether you are on a tight budget or wish to splurge, T Nagar has ample of shopping opportunities for one and all. Today we uncover some of the hidden stories in these streets, where migrants from different parts of the country come to Chennai to earn a living. Dilip Kumar from Gorakhpur sells handmade bags from Gujarat since 2015.
आप यहाँ पे कितने साल से काम कर रहे हो? 14-15 साल। पहले कुछ नहीं, ऐसे बिजनेस के सिलसिले में इधर आया, इधर सेटल हो गया तो इधर ही करते हैं। नहीं बनाते तो नहीं है, मंगाते हैं। इधर से मंगाते हैं गुजरात से। जैसे इधर पहले आ गया तो ऑल इंडिया अपना है, कहीं भी जाओ कुछ भी करो, उसमें क्या है। नहीं ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है भाई, जिसको जहाँ जनता वहाँ चला जाता। मैं ऐसे इधर आया, मुझे अच्छा लगा, मैं इधर ही ऑल अपना साउथ इंडिया भी तो अपना ही है, उसमें क्या दिक्कत है। बहुत अच्छे हैं लोग, इधर के लोग बहुत पढ़े लिखे हैं, बहुत समझदार हैं, बहुत ब्रिलियंट हैं, बहुत अच्छे, मतलब बोल नहीं सकते इतने अच्छे हैं। और इधर के पढ़े लिखे तो बहुत ही अच्छे हैं, सभी लोग एक दूसरे का सम्मान करते हैं।
Chintu Kumar from Bihar sells women's garments for living since 2019.
चेन्नई में 2019 से आए हैं, इससे पहले पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं। यहाँ का वातावरण भी अच्छा है और रहन सहन भी अच्छा, ठीक ठाक है। अभी का इधर प्लान है, मतलब कुछ दिन इधर रहना, उसके बाद पढ़ाई करना, आगे बीएड करना है।
बीएड करना है? हाँ। कौन से इसमें?
कौन सा कोर्स में? इंग्लिश ऑनर्स में करना है।
People from the remotest corners of the country come to Chennai in a hope to earn a living. While some do it to fulfill their own dreams, others do it for their families.
Well, thank you for that poignant story. While we are on Tamil Nadu, there is some alarming news coming in from Tamil Nadu in a rather tragic development. The one-of-a-kind humanitarian township Auroville in Tamil Nadu is bearing the brunt of horrific violence. The conflict essentially is between the newly appointed government authorities who are forcefully trying to trample down the Auroville forests for developmental purposes and the residents themselves. The residents of the township have been trying to peacefully resist the incursion even after JCBs, ladies and gentlemen, were deployed to demolish the township. Now, this township has a fascinating legacy. It was built in and is being carried forward by pacifists and humanists as a safe haven for men and women from across the caste, creed, and nationality spectrum. Residents of Auroville describe it as a city that belongs to no one in particular. The residents say, ladies and gentlemen, that the government is cracking down not just on the forests and the people, but the processes and dreams of utopia that lie embedded within the township. Now, while it is important to talk about the misery, the strife, and the tragedy that grips the nation, it is equally important to overlook the flip side of it. Not to overlook the flip side of it, I beg your pardon. Hence, our good news segment is here, where we celebrate the heroes amidst the gloom and despair. Now, our first hero is Anek Sachdev, a 12-year-old Sikh American who has started what he calls a loving library, where he has been lending books to COVID patients and others to help them pass their time. Isn't that absolutely adorable? Now, another such hero is young inventor Sham Chaurasia, who has developed the smart chargeable army camp to ensure safety of soldiers. It has small heater plates installed in it. Now, that is what we call at India Now true nationalism. Now, another such story is that of Hanjabam from Manipur, who has turned to kindness as a driving force in creating an LGBTQIA-friendly organization in a state like Manipur, viewers, where the members of the community find themselves in particularly vulnerable positions. Now, isn't that true humanity and true social service? Now, one thing that we have observed in all these stories is that these are ordinary people. These are ordinary people, ladies and gentlemen, who turn out to be heroes and who help society in recovering from its wounds. So in this context, where is the voice of the populi, the people? It's nowhere to be heard. Well, finding exactly that, we have Samiksha doing an interesting Chai Pe Charcha, a conversational series with the last man on the street. Over to you, Samiksha. Tell us what's up in Ranchi.
Segment. I'm Samiksha Sharma with you on the streets of Ranchi, and I'm going to have some candid conversations. So look over here, they serve the tea on these coolers. I mean, what else do you really want in this chilly winters? Now I'll give you some updates that's going on in the city, Ranchi. If we talk about the pandemic, the COVID cases here are decreasing at a very slow rate, but still the government has decided to extend the lockdown restrictions until 31st January. Recently, Chief Minister Hemant Soren also tested COVID positive with his entire family, including his father, Shibu Soren. Schools and colleges are to be online due to the COVID drive. Vaccinations are likely to be started. Now some weather updates. The weather here was quite chilly, but luckily from the past 2 days, it's been sunny over here, which is giving relief to the people. From 23rd January, the city will likely receive some rain. That's it for the segment. Signing off.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are left with enough food for thought, with the promise of constantly bringing to you stories that matter. This is me, Vedant Agarwal, with my co-host Shubhangi, signing off for the day. See you on the other side. Till then, keep watching India Now, the pulse of the nation.
जो किसानों के दिल में है, जो गरीबों के दिल में है, वो प्रधानमंत्री तक नहीं पहुंचता है।
As you can see behind me, there's a huge pile of garbage, which